So with an amazingly positive July jobs report that shows that almost 1 million jobs were created during that period, President Biden has once again shown why Democrats are the ones who come in and fix the economic disasters that are created by Republicans. Let's talk about it in today's video.
We learned that the economy created 943,000 new jobs in July. 943,000. The unemployment rate fell by 0.5% to 5.4%. Now, while our economy is far from complete, and while we doubtlessly will have ups and downs along the way as we continue to battle the Delta surge of COVID, what is indisputable now is this: the Biden plan is working, the Biden plan produces results, and the Biden plan is moving the country forward. We're now the first administration in history to add jobs every single month in our first 6 months in office, and the only one in history to add more than 4 million jobs during the first 6 months. Economic growth is the fastest in 40 years. Jobs are up. The unemployment rate is the lowest since the pandemic hit. Black unemployment is down as well. Why? Because we put in place the necessary tools early in my presidency.
Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democrat who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. If you share my concerns, maybe you could like this video and subscribe to this channel, maybe even click that little bell that will notify you when I post something new. So exciting news. Economists are crowing just as much as President Biden is about the amazingly positive jobs report for July. Virtually every sector of the economy enjoyed huge increases. The only sector that didn't is retail, largely because they'd already grown so much. What's especially amazing is the growth in the tourism and hospitality industries, which were so dramatically affected by the COVID crisis. And the exciting thing is that to draw people back to work, they're offering higher wages to people. So wages are going up overall. This is a jobs report that represents what economist Jason Furman tweeted out. I have yet to find a blemish in this jobs report. I've never before seen such a wonderful set of economic data. And as President Biden mentioned in the comments that he just delivered, these data represent some of the best growth and the fastest recovery from a recession that the United States has ever experienced. So much for Donald Trump's claims of having the greatest economy in the history of the country. Now, we as Democrats should be crowing about this, because once again, Democrats have delivered after Republicans screwed things up. If you're someone concerned about your job, do not vote for Republicans because they're going to destroy it in one way, shape, or form. If there's any problem that the Democrats have, it's that we do such a good job of helping the economy recover that people are feeling pretty satisfied and pretty good about things. So they think, hey, let's elect Republicans. It's not going to matter. And then the Republicans screw it up and we're back to ground zero again. Another really exciting aspect to this report is it seems to really not support the claims that the extended unemployment benefits had any impact on people going back to work. I mean, consider the following statistic. According to the data, people in their prime working years, those are people 25 to 54 years old, that level of employment is back to what it was as recently as 2018. So while Trump was president, supposedly in the greatest economy in the history of the world. And to add to that, the number of people who are working part-time because they can't find full-time work has declined dramatically. So not only are people getting jobs, but they're getting better paying jobs and full-time jobs. It's really exciting data. So let's take a moment to talk about the people who are not going back to work then. Because there still is this issue that the Republicans keep crowing about, people not being available to return to work. Well, as it turns out, given the data regarding the prime age working population, it appears the people who aren't returning to work are older people who might have said during the COVID crisis, hey, I want to retire now. I don't want to work anymore. I'm enjoying having this time off. And these are people who just aren't going to go back anyway. So are Republicans going to now start trying to force people who've put in their years working to try to go back to work? I would say they shouldn't do that. What's more, of course, as the New York Times reported, the issue of childcare is still a big issue for many families, and especially now with the rise of the Delta variant and families concerned about what's going to happen with school in the fall, a lot of women are now saying, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with our kids now? It's just one more reason why America needs to address the childcare crisis that we have going on. Something, by the way, that President Biden is calling to do with his Families Act. Now, I'm not going to throw cold water on this report, but I do think I need to bring a little bit of nuance into it. some of which is good, some of which is bad. Now, as I have talked about before, these statistics are what are called seasonally adjusted, which means that they kind of account for the fact that certain seasons are going to have more employment and certain seasons are going to have less employment. Well, July, traditionally, is a season where people are let off from their jobs at schools. So traditionally, you'll see lower employment in July. Well, of course, as a result of the COVID crisis, there were fewer employees working at schools during the school year and fewer employees who were let off during the summer. So in raw data, did we actually add jobs? Well, the answer is no. We actually lost about 100,000 jobs. But compared to what you would expect, that's much lower than usual, number one. And number two, when you average that out, including the prior months where the claim was we didn't add as many jobs as we should have, but again, those were seasonally adjusted figures, it actually shows that the economy is continuing to grow and add jobs at a very healthy rate. So even with that understanding, it's something to be very satisfied about. And one concern that is being brought up by a lot of commentators is the fact that most of this jobs data is based upon surveys that occurred in the first half of July, before the COVID Delta variant was becoming much of an issue. But this actually points to what Democrats have been doing right and what Republicans have been doing wrong. The truth of the matter is, despite claims to the contrary, politicians really don't have that much impact on the economy generally. Now, there are exceptions to that, and a great exception to that would be the response to COVID. I mean, Donald Trump's fumbling of the COVID crisis and his inability to address it in a serious way is part of the reason that the economy went into such a deep recession. Conversely, President Biden's fast response to it and his ability to get vaccinations out to people as quickly as possible is an example of where he's had a positive impact on the economy. And really, the bounce back in the economy is almost solely due to the fact that so many people have been vaccinated. And now with a superstar Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, creating another COVID crisis down in Florida, we're seeing once again where Republicans refuse to address the problem. And failure to address the problem is the type of thing that's going to lead to economic crisis. I have no doubt that Florida is in for a rough couple months, as Ron DeSantis takes the Donald Trump approach of see no evil, hear no evil, and do nothing to address the COVID crisis. After all, the pandemic at this point is almost purely a pandemic among the unvaccinated. Among people who are vaccinated, well, especially if we mask up, well, we're pretty safe to go out and do whatever we want to. So the question remains, are we going to allow the Republicans and these unvaccinated people to drag down the rest of our economy and hurt everybody else who actually went out and got the shots? President Biden and the Democrats deserve credit for taking such swift action to return the economy back to what it was after the disaster that was the Trump administration. And despite the fact that you've got people like Governor DeSantis doing his best to try to make the crisis even worse. Well, if you agree with me or disagree with me or have any questions about the jobs report, I'd love to see some comments down below. I do read all my comments. And if you could give me a like and a subscription, I'd sure appreciate that. I'll see you in the next video. And in the meantime, let's hope for continued progress.